Boom Supersonic has become the world's first company to build and fly their own supersonic jet successfully, with the XB-1 testing plane able to breach the sound barrier several times today, which is a huge step forward towards the reincarnation of supersonic travel. But sometimes what's on a blueprint is not the same as what will happen in reality. So let's dive into the future of supersonic travel, what Boom Supersonic's next steps are, and what exactly are the major challenges that they're facing before they can bring back supersonic travel. Isn't that such a beautiful plane? This is the testing plane that they're currently flying to break the sound barrier, and it is gorgeous. However, you may notice that on the screen there, above its tail, it looks like a 747. Like, do you see the little? It's got the 747 hump where the cockpit where the American flag is. That's the third engine intake there. But it's a little plane, a little Boeing plane riding on the back, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. So as we said, Boom Supersonic is trying to bring back supersonic travel and hopefully produce a brand new passenger jet. From the business side, they've made some major announcements, and this latest step in going supersonic with the XB-1 testing plane is a great sense of progress. But many people are skeptical, considering that this company is technically a tech startup and they haven't built any production aircraft. They've built one little testing plane that's managed to break the sound barrier, but that's a long way from being able to build a passenger plane and also deliver it into the hands of airlines, let alone what the actual experience would be like to sit on the plane as a passenger. Some of the other challenges that they're facing is that they don't have an engine partner. They were able to put together some engines for this version of the plane, but they're still missing a major engine developer for the actual passenger plane, which is a huge step that needs to be done. But this hasn't stopped airlines from taking some major interest. We know that United Airlines and American Airlines have both put in tentative orders for these aircraft. United Airlines in June 2001 put in an order for 15 Boom Overture aircraft, which is the passenger plane, and then with an option to get 35 more. And then American Airlines announced a year later in August that they had also put in an order for 20 aircraft. There are also other airlines that are shopping around interest, such as Japan Airlines. However, a lot of these orders are actually quite tentative, and these aren't like the same orders that you would get for Boeing or Airbus. These are just $1 million options to secure a production slot of this aircraft. So what exactly is the Boom Overture? Well, it's a proposed Mach 1.7 plane that would fly around 1,800 kilometers per hour and carry 65 to 88 passengers on board. With 500 variable routes, Boom is suggesting that there could be a market for 1,000 supersonic airliners with business class fares. So, if you're paying about $5,000 to fly London to New York, they will be able to compete with the likes of Emirates or Qatar or something with those lie flat seats with this smaller plane that will get you there much faster. So far, it's got around 76 commitments from those airlines, like the ones I mentioned before, but whether or not they're going to actually be able to deliver on this is the big question in a lot of airliners' minds. It's very much an interesting project, but given that the company has only recently started flying aircraft, after being founded for around 10 years at this point, and they don't have any experience building any aircraft before this, it seems like they're promising a lot without many of the clear indicators of being able to deliver it completely. And I know it sounds like I'm starting to be a hater of this project, but you do have to see it from the business side of view, with airlines who normally deal with the likes of Boeing and Airbus, who have delivered thousands of planes. This is a huge gamble, and we have seen how they have already changed the Overture plane over time as they've become closer to developing an aircraft. For example, they went from 3 engines to 4 engines because they couldn't get enough power. They had to reduce the speed from Mach 1.7 to 1.6, and now they've also reduced the range. And that is something that I do want to talk about, because the range is a very interesting thing, because you can see that the Concorde with its original engine was able to fly routes like New York to London and then, Los Angeles to Honolulu Honolulu, but it wasn't able to jump the gap across the Pacific Ocean, which is that, Japan to Los Angeles routes that are very popular. The Concorde also had a B version that was designed to fix that problem, and you can see that it could go Tokyo to Anchorage and then Anchorage to New York, back when it was the Cold War and they had to fly around. And so basically it can cross the Pacific Ocean. The boom Overture is going to sit somewhere in between these two points, and with the range being limited at around 5,000 miles, that means that it can't fly from Sydney, where I am, to Honolulu. So I won't ever see the boom Overture flying into Australia, even though Australia to Los Angeles or even Australia to Hawaii would be a very profitable route for a supersonic aircraft. Because the normal flight from Sydney to LA is 14 hours, and if I could do that in 6 hours, that I would be willing to choose that airline over flying in a lie flat seat. Which is kind of the second point that I wanted to talk about. Does the market for this aircraft even exist anymore? Even though the Concorde was developed for the supersonic market that never materialized and eventually found its niche for superfast travel between London and New York in the 80s and 90s, when those two cities developed into major centers of business and finance, there was a real advantage in having a morning meeting with the European branch and then hopping on the Concorde and getting to New York with enough time to have an afternoon meeting before the markets closed. Nowadays, you can just hop on a Zoom, or you can just have a Google Meet and you don't have to go to the airport and then fly halfway around the world. These business passengers now have the option to fly on Emirates and Qatar and the Q Suite and these amazing, luxurious experiences, if not flying private in, say, a Gulfstream, which can go quite fast and you get a whole private plane to themselves, that this aircraft is now kind of obsolete. You just don't have really any requirement to fly super fast around the world. Even the original Concorde business model is in tatters today, since lie-flat business class seats have made it more time efficient to fly subsonic from New York to London or Paris. If you're a business traveler, you can just sit down and have a lie-flat seat and sleep overnight as you fly between these two cities, which is a better use of your time, and these can be quite comfortable flights. So even though if Boom Supersonic can bring the aircraft to the market by 2029, we still don't know exactly if it's going to have a market waiting for it. But there is another huge big area of concern when it comes to this aircraft that we need to talk about, and that is the engines. You see, there is no engine builder for this aircraft. They were going to work with Rolls-Royce, who developed the original Concorde engines, which were made from Cold War era aircraft, like bombers. All the airline engine manufacturers have walked away from this project because there's no desire to spend billions of dollars developing a jet engine for a supersonic aircraft that will only sell 33 aircraft a year. It will take them 50 years to recoup the costs of this engine. So Boom Supersonic has partnered up with Florida Turbine Technologies, GE Additive, and Standard Aero to develop their own in-house engines. And I believe that Florida Turbine Technologies did work on the F-35 engine, so they do have experience building engines that can go very fast. But it is a huge leap to see them build their own in-house engine for this own aircraft and have 4 on every plane. But look, if SpaceX can build the Raptor engine to send rockets up into space that now carry astronauts, maybe it's completely possible that Boom Supersonic's going to be able to do this. And why not? I want to live in a world in which this aircraft does actually exist. And I want to flip this back and actually give my own personal opinions now. I think there is a huge market for a private jet version of this aircraft. This plane could easily carry, say, 12 passengers in incredible luxury and be able to fly anywhere in the world at a moment's notice. And this would make VIP passengers very happy. Because the one thing that billionaires don't have is more time. They have the same number of time as all of us, so they would be willing to pay top dollar to fly around the world as quickly as possible. And I think this is going to be the primary business model for Boom Overture. If they can, convince, say, Elon Musk to shell out $1 billion or $2 billion for this jet that's able to fly supersonic, you know they're just going to snap it up. And it does surprise me that they haven't exactly pulled the trigger on this yet. Perhaps behind the scenes, or when they start to approach venture capital, they will, or perhaps it will be when this plane is actually flying. So all they need to do is to reach the next stage where they're going to have this plane starting to fly around the world. Like, if they can get it actually made and they can give a tour, and then the Sultan of Brunei can sit down in the seats and actually see what's happening, then that's when you know that they're going to have a winner on their hands and they're going to be able to bring it to the market. The other last little tidbit, of course, is they say they're going to have it in 2029, but you know that the FAA is going to test the hell out of it, and we probably won't see it flying anytime before 2035. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I would love to know if you would like to fly on board this aircraft and what you think of the latest news. Thanks for watching.